And now to the war in Ukraine, where 5 people have been reported injured after Ukrainian drones attacked 4 separate regions in Russia Sunday. The attacks hitting 3 regions, including Moscow, where 2 airports had to briefly divert their flights. That's according to Russian authorities. Ukraine drone strikes on border regions and the Russian capital have become increasingly common in recent months, with repeated strikes on Moscow's financial district. And Russia's first moon mission in more than 4 decades fails. On Saturday, its spacecraft called Luna 25 crashed onto the moon's surface. It was supposed to land softly today, and the mission aimed to make Russia the first nation to land on the south pole of the moon, where NASA has determined there are traces of icy water. That crash is now under investigation. Joining us now to talk more about this is retired U.S. Navy Captain Armen Kurdian. Thank you so much for being here and for your service.
Morning, Kelly. Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. So based on what we know right now, which isn't a lot, do you have any thoughts as to what may have led to this crash?
Certainly. So orbital maneuvers, orbital insertion is a very delicate and very complex procedure. You essentially have to do several hundred steps in exactly the right order, exactly the right amount in order to get the result that you want. So say a thruster fired for a little bit too long, or a thruster didn't fire at all, or the thrusters fired in the right order, but the vehicle wasn't oriented right. Let's say it was facing one direction when it should have been facing another. We can say that perhaps the measurements for where the vehicle thought it was, or where the Russians thought the vehicle was not accurate. Any one of these things going wrong could cause a problem. Now, just because you have one thing that goes wrong doesn't mean that you can't possibly correct it. But the longer that an error goes undetected and uncorrected, the more thrust that you have to use to actually go and fix it. To give you an example, Luna 25 is the size of maybe a small car. The dry weight is a little less than a ton, but it carried over 1 ton of propellant. So more than half of its weight post-launch was in propellant. That's how much propellant they had there in order to try to get this thing on the surface of the moon. It's very unfortunate. Hopefully the Russians will learn from this and try again.
And a tedious task, as you outlined there. So a lot of resources invested into a mission like this, of course. What does this crash mean for the future of South Pole exploration on the moon?
Well, let's take a look at what Russia's been able to accomplish. They have not been able to get to the moon in the last 46 years. This is their first attempt there. They've not had a lot of luck, only 3 successful launches, although they have sent probes to Venus and Mars as well. The main mission of Luna 25 is the Holy Grail is to find ice water, which is obviously necessary for human life, but also would be necessary to support a semi-permanent moon base or colony on the moon, along with assessing what other minerals might be there, in addition to how stable the lunar rock is there and what might be happening in the in the moon's exoatmosphere, any particulates that are up there. So all of this information was going to be brought down and digested, and I'm sure the Russians were ready to brag about their accomplishments. It really is unfortunate. The Indians are going to try and launch or land on the moon here, I think, within the next 24 hours, so hopefully they'll have some more luck. And one other thing I'd like to say is that while you might cheer on this failure of Russia, considering what's happening in the news, there is a camaraderie in the space programs all over the world. So I think a lot of folks all over the world are actually very disappointed about what's happening, what happened to the Luna 25 vehicle. Hopefully in the future they'll be successful and we'll learn a lot more about the lunar surface.
Well, I appreciate you highlighting that. Yes, it's a unique community and situation. So moving forward and connecting the dots for us, if you can, some of these advances, some of these items that we were looking for in this specific region of the moon, how do those help us with advances here on Earth? Are there 3 or 4 categories that you think it would be, it would have a major impact?
Certainly. So the moon, for example, has 1/6 of the Earth's gravity. So if you were able to set up, say, a permanent facility there, you might be able to grow crystals, create certain biopharmaceuticals or other kinds of materials that you might be able to develop experimentally, which you can't really do on Earth because of the Earth's gravity. In addition, a moon base could be used as a jumping off point to head to Mars or say to the asteroid belt. And the asteroid belt is extremely rich in materials, iron, nickel, and other metals, which could be used for construction of, say, additional space vehicles, which could reach out to the further reaches of the solar system.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.